Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's episode. I'm going to dive into it: the restoration of the universal unknown. This idea is building up on this other talk I gave called "The Hunter-Gatherers of the Inner Realms," and so it's about looking at knowledge and the position that it leaves us in. Because in life, the human being, their consciousness emerges, like wakes up in the day to known variables and unknown variables. Now, our knowledge is how we have engaged the unknown variables of life, If you think about it, there was this idea, uh, that at the beginning, everything was unknown. Everything. Even though we have been a creature for a while, but knowledge is a recent development. The fact that we can communicate knowledge, share knowledge, it's a recent development, but what is the downside to it? Could knowledge have potentially a downside? Usually no. Usually the more knowledge you have, there isn't a downside. But the downside is that if in a changing world your knowledge doesn't let you change, then we can say that is not knowledge. Because for me, knowledge is a relationship with the unknown. It's a relationship with the unknown. At best, it's a snapshot definition of what could be going on. The restoration of the universal unknown is how man is honoring what he doesn't know as much as what he knows, not honoring what he knows more than what he doesn't know. This life is remarkable. You look at every corner of this planet, stories have emerged. It's as if like life, why did human beings suddenly arrive? Just like Alan Watts says, a tree appled, this planet peopled. And so we're wondering, why is there people here? And so people are actually, what's the word I'm looking for? We are story generators. Everywhere in the world you look, the influence of knowledge, or what knowledge has done, has allowed the human being to polish their story, has it not? When I was young, my parents would, very young, my parents and my grandmother would tell me bedtime stories. Little did I know, all of human knowledge is a story. It's a story with different certainties. For example, when it comes to objective phenomena, we're certain, that tree is there. Look at, you can climb that tree. But if you saw a tree in your inner realms, could you climb that tree? What could you do with the tree in your inner realms? That means if somebody told you visualize a tree, can you climb that tree? No, you can visualize a self that has climbed it or is climbing it. We can visualize verbs and nouns, and sometimes even simultaneously. What interests me is in the idea of the hunter-gatherer of the inner realms. I shared that human beings have moved into an era of advanced communication. Pretty much we worshipped objects, then we moved on to worshipping subjects. So from idol worship we went to ideal worship. Now we are noticing more than the subject. This is why people, they are not looking for stories anymore. I'm telling you, people are looking for experiences. And experiences to the human mind will be rhythms. That means people are looking for rhythms, because how long, it's like the person can't just upgrade their car. They want their car to be part of a race. You see, it's the issue of meaning on this planet. But the issue of meaning is conditioned in the way where the educational system is making you chase knowledge. People think if they know more, they are better off, rather than if they abide more. You know? We have to honor the unknown. The honor, Friedrich Nietzsche said, God is dead and man killed him. You know? And I feel the next victim is the unknown. The moment they make the human being forget that it has unknown dimensions, they can trap the human being in an idea. You can even trap yourself in an idea. You know? How do you think Sam and Sarah got stuck in samsara? Poor Sam and Sarah, you know, stuck in samsara for eons. You know, there's this idea that what you don't know can be a simulation, and there's this idea that what you know can be a simulation. The latter one, in regards to what you know being a simulation, I don't want to say it's dangerous, but it's nullifying. There are ideas in this world that add dimensions, and there are ideas that take away dimensions. In a world where it appears multidimensional, where as I'm speaking to you right now, sure, you know, my legs are crossed, I'm sitting, you know, on a comfortable chair. But at the same time, the position of my mind is not sitting. If I can't tell you if my mind is sitting or standing or just hovering as a mere presence in the moment. You know, the mind is not local. It doesn't have a body. That means that's why we created the word mind. Because it wasn't the body. It was something else. You know? It's like the person's like, the soul doesn't exist. You're like, hey man, I'm pretty sure I'm reading the definition in the dictionary. For me, the unknown is the most important element of my life. I can tell you, it is the element of life where excitement, adventure, wonder arise from. It is the element of life where the divine is noticed. The unknown is not a pitch black abyss. Oh no, what's there in the darkness? You know, the unknown is all the other angles you could know. That's the healthiest definition of it. You see, the process of communication and speech, I see it as exploration. The exploration of the limits of the ability of the human being. That means any new sentence I've said, that's been a new me. That's been a new state. You know, every day I wake up, it's like, am I here to experience one person, or am I here to experience endless versions of this one thing? You know? How are the days coming across as we wake up to them? You know, and we go back to sleep. There's so many mysteries in this world, and we've all created this picture of normality, reality, yay. You know, we know everything. We are in progress, yay. You know, if we think this is progress for human civilization, then it's over. We deserve to be extinct. If we think this is an advanced civilization we have going on. Compared to the past, of course, anything is advanced. You know. You know, compared to the past, my genes are advanced technology. They didn't have genes back then. You know? So compared to the past, anything is progress. Compared to yesterday, yeah, I'm giving another talk, progress. You know, but it's in regards to the future where you get serious with yourself. You know, I mean, I'm not telling people not to be blissed out in an ever-present moment. I'm just, I'm telling people that the unknown can change the condition and circumstance of how you know things. And when you as a human being realize this world is multidimensional, I mean, look at it. There's space and there's stuff in space. Now, when we look at psychology, psychology seems to be the subjective thing, do you know? And where is it? It's in space. The mind is the space for your body. Just like matter is in space, self, your sense of self is in your awareness. You know, and we have considered space non-intelligent. Do you know how offended space is right now? Like empty space is really offended. We're calling it empty. The restoration of the universal unknown is the most important thing. It is a pillar of civilization. That means we haven't been noticing it, but one by one, the foundations of what has kept civilization going are becoming shaky. It's all about values. Really, you can have as many people in a room. If their values are different, endless war. If their values are similar, they can find a way to get out of the room. You know, the fact that we have felt the world is just this, it has made us stop looking at it. Anytime you feel something is okay, you stop looking at it. Many times in my life, I have seen very strong people, very strong human beings, and they did something intense, and I felt that person was so strong, like that didn't have a weight on them. It's like it was okay, you know, to just be silent and let the one man carry the big weight. But then I realized when I had a situation where I had to carry a big weight in the moment, a huge responsibility in the moment, then I realized really the burden of the inner realms when they live for the outer realms, because we are conditioned to have how we are behind our eyes be based on what we want outside of our eyes, in front of our eyes. You know, this whole thing I'm saying about the outer realms and inner realms, in front of your eyes, you see phenomena objectively, that's your outer realms. Behind your eyes, you see phenomena as a subject, that's your inner realms. You know, and there's a reason, guys, I'm using a realm, because it is not enough to just say a subjective self. What? A self arises there with no world where, you know? It's like, you know, there's a world acquainted to any sort of self. The moment you wear a glove, you know there is the other glove. When you wear one glove, you know there's another glove. You know? Some people watching dishes right now are so inspired. Guys, there was a time I had to wash dishes. I'll tell you this. Alan Watts has this advice. He says, if you have to wash a lot of dishes, you know, act as if you're only washing one dish perfectly. And it doesn't matter. All the things are interchangeable. That means you as a human being, really, the proper, I guess to some degree, psychological algorithm to this world is that you take your attention to the simplicity of your moment. You see, most people are attempting the complex, but they don't understand the complexity arises from simpler principles. This is why children of this world, if they're smart, they will run to physics. You will run to see what physics is saying. Do you know, it's as if the mind, it's like when you realize consciousness is on an island when life appears once in a lifetime, you know? I can tell you that the unknown is why we remain. And not because in a Vedic thought they were like, unless the person knows the true nature of reality, they're going to endlessly spiral in this karmic wheel, you know? And let me tell you, who has karma? Have you ever thought about this idea? Many people, excuse my language, but they say karma is a beep. They say karma, you know, is rude to them. But many people don't realize. What if you are rude to the lords of karma by not realizing where you are? Can you imagine entering someone's house as a guest, then acting like their house is your own and you can do anything? Do you know? There is a view like that. There is a view that there is intelligence beyond the human form, but it is not formed. It is field-like. They become avatars of pure knowledge. What does that mean? That means the light beam is separate from the sun, but it is still made of light. Do you see? It is still light. You see? And I don't know. I feel we are light beams. We are physical light beams of a non-physical field. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, isn't it fascinating that without light you can't see? And what's even more fascinating is that the person can close their eyes. That means that your eyelids are closed. There's no light going in your eyes, but you can still see. It's as if the mind has a sight too. Little did our species know. The mind's vision is powerful because the mind's vision is the only vision possible to be inseparable. That means it can function individual and collective, you know? Just like how the Transformer robots from the movies could become like cars and giant killing machines. You know, it's like we can become individual conscious beings using language, or we can administer ourselves as the fields of our future self. That means there are many scholars. I didn't know this, but there's many. I thought I was alone, then I realized there's a bunch. You know, pretty much many continental philosophers. Not, no, I can't say many continental philosophers, but certain human beings on this planet have looked at the future of humanity and they have seen it as if the past was a drop, the present is a river, the future is how all the rivers are being simultaneously the ocean. Right now, we are learning lessons of movement. I would say we are at the dynamic phase of human living. You know, right now, motion gives us meaning, you know? Someone comes out of nowhere, suddenly purposes arose, you know? You know, there was this issue I had, not issue, there was this situation when I was in grade 10. There was this very, at least in my eyes, very beautiful girl, and uh, every time I had in my mind fallen in love with her without getting to know who she was. Yeah, and I had this girl was so gorgeous to me. It was like I would overwhelm myself when I was around her, and I didn't even know her. That's the point I'm trying to make. That she was someone who I didn't know well, but my mind had built her up in a certain way. And so every time I was around her or she would come and talk to me, I would overwhelm myself out of the image I had of her, you know? And that was a point where I couldn't discriminate between the inner realms and the outer realms, you know? When you can't discriminate from the inner realms and outer realms, that's when you'll find yourself in a moment, why did things happen that way? You know, but it was very phenomenal. Then I got to know her a bit later on, years later, and then I saw that she was totally the opposite. You know, that means it was as if like my mind had seen the best what I wanted in her, but my mind had not seen her. Do you see what I'm saying? And so the inner realms had sold me on her beauty without me even seeing if her mind was beautiful. You know? But that's the thing. The unknown is the healing component of life, because knowledge has predictions, has ambition, has desire, has an intention, a motive, a destination. And when that inner realm destination is not abided by the outer realms, the person dishonors the outer realm subconsciously. What does that mean? That means, let's say you're walking by and a leaf falls on your face from a tree, you know? Can you imagine you're walking the most enlightened, liberated walk, and a leaf hits your face. You know? Now, in that moment, the inner realms were not expecting that leaf to hit the face. Do you know? And when it did, you can say it was as if, why did the world hit me? There's been many times, guys. There's many times I've honestly tried things in this life and it hasn't worked out. Like, I implemented a strategy. I'm like, all right, let's see. Let's see what happens. I implemented a strategy and it didn't work out. And if I knew it didn't have to do with the minds there. It had to do with me not having noticed the condition of the environment. That means those people who are good with animals, the reason they are is because they are attentive to the ecosystem of the animal. I don't know how people can communicate with animals without realizing the ecosystem of the animal is being the animal's mind. And human beings have an inner ecosystem. That's why there's the process of courtship, you know. This is why we see, like in Italy we had Casanova, or in Spain we had Don Juan. Like, that's why these dudes had to talk a lot, because the inner environment of people are different. They're different. And really, right now, love has an obsession in regards to form. That means we love to physically acquire. Like, everybody, you see this whole consumerist thing, you think this consumerism stops at just objects in a mall? This consumerism goes to people. It goes up to people. That means in the future, do you know, it's like, I mean, we can even see it now. What am I saying in the future? Like, right now, it's happening. The whole social media thing that's going on, it's as if we are our own salesmen. Are we not in social media? People are choosing what they upload, choosing what people see, choosing things. It's as if, like, we have become gods of vision in cyberspace, you know? Right now, we have that freedom. In the future, children might not have even the freedom to change their social media. Their social media, imagine, has to abide exactly accurately with who they are. There's many systems. You know, the most comforting idea on this planet was that if you look at the systems individually, they may not make sense. You know, that means if you look at life only from a religious narrative, you're like, why is God, you know, caring about some people and God not caring? Like, you know, for all those people dying in conditions of poverty. If you only choose to see it as a singular system through a singular idea, it doesn't make sense. The ideas break. This world is too multidimensional for one belief to cover it up. Yeah. But this doesn't mean there isn't truth to language, because language tends to originate from experience. That's the strange thing. You know, that means if religion didn't have a written component to it, I still think the idea, I mean, Voltaire says the idea, even if there was no concept of God, Voltaire says this notable French atheist from back in the day, he says, if there was no concept of God, man, it would still be necessary for man to create him. And you don't know, guys, how long I tried to unravel that quote. And finally, I found a way that it makes sense. What Voltaire means is that what God was the personification attempt of the universe upon the human being, wondering where they originated from, where they began, where their origin was. So what does that mean? That means even if none of the prophets were here, we would still have to look at the cosmos and wonder if it had a face. It's like it would be about time. You like look at how many people naturally see faces in the clouds. Guess what? Some people saw a face to the whole universe, but it wasn't a face. It was a person. It was a humanized meaning. You know. The comforting idea is that it's a multidimensional system and it's okay. It's okay for you to exist, for existence to have freedom of movement. It's also okay for experience to have freedom of movement. If you experientially just think you know and you forget the unknown, you are repeating the past to some degree. The unknown is where you find all the abilities you never knew you had. You think I knew I was going to give talks? When I was young, I was like this super shy kid. You know, I felt rejected by the outer realm, so I was just in my inner realms, you know? Like I'm a way better person now giving these talks compared to who I was a couple years ago because I had abandoned my care for the world. Not my care for my personality, ego, responsibilities and all that, you know? Just the care that I felt the world, the outer realm, it didn't matter for the outer realm what my inner realm was, so I didn't care what the outer realm's inner realm was. Do you know what is do you know what I mean by that? There was a guy in a very, of course, it was a, I don't know, it was a rare occasion for me. You know, I'm not I may be an evolutionary animal, but I'm not that much of an evolutionary party animal. But I remember I had attended this house party, and um, anyways, it wasn't very discreet. It was lot of questionable things happening there. But I was chilling there at some point, and there was this chef, you know, and this was before I left. You know, I was there to visit a friend, an actor. But anyways, so I'm sitting there, and of course, there's an intoxicated aroma in the whole room. And suddenly, this guy who's a chef, who's there at the house party, he says this thing. Like some people, there's this conversation about like people. Somehow the conversation. Oh my God! I mean, this story is too extreme. Anyways, point of the reason I'm sharing this with you, the man said he felt the world had lied to him and he hated the world. And I wondered in that moment how many people in this world right now are looking at this planet, everything, looking at their moment, and they're feeling deceived. You know? It's fascinating. And I feel the greatest force on this earth, one of the greatest forces, most enlightening forces on this earth is boredom. I am telling you, boredom is very enlightening. Boredom makes you find new dimensions. And so if in your youth you're introverted, there's going to come a time you're going to get bored. You're going to go to the opposite side. When you're in the opposite side for a while, you're going to get bored. You're going to come to the thing until you suddenly come to a complete resolution of all phenomena as experiential witnessing of existence in an instant. That means I feel you will suffer. Any image that can be compared to another image will suffer. It is only an instantaneous moment where suffering doesn't exist because you can't compare an instant. There is no way you can explain something that is happening in an instant. Explanation requires something to relate it to. That's why I'm saying language is a dualistic technology, you know? Our species hasn't roared yet. Wait until you see its roar. Whether it's now or it's going to be in like 100, maybe 200 years or whatever, but there's going to be a roar. There's going to be a point where some human beings are going to be there's going to be like, here's the thing. I don't even see it as, I just see it as people. I just feel this is like a multiplayer online map, okay? Like a video game, imagine. It's a multiplayer map. We all wake up into it as physical beings in this physical video game, okay? And we go on throughout the day, and what is the purpose of life? Go find quests, go find missions, you know? And what's fascinating is that deep sleep is like the person playing this physical video game logging off the account. That means I wouldn't be surprised if we are the surprise after death. We are it, the surprise. Can you imagine an advanced civilization, a civilization that, let's say there was a potential, let's say it was a coin flip kind of probability, and let's say there was the idea of reincarnation, this endless oscillation between a known life and an unknown life. Nature can't hate herself, you know? You know, this is the thing I noticed about a lot of parent psychology, decent parent psychology, you know? Or it's not even that. It's in the psychology that explains why many fathers in certain cultures leave their family. Why the father leaves the family. You know, why the father goes to buy a pack of cigarettes and never comes back. You know? The reason, I want to explain that to you. The reason is because when you really love someone and you hurt someone you love, you feel whenever you're around them, you're hurting them. Do you know? This is why, even if, let's say you're a kid and your father's come back, okay? Let's say you're a kid who your father left when you were young, and your father has come back. Now, if you were to wonder what the psychology of that father would be, it is forgiveness. You see, a person can't just release their inner tension if they're an individual, if they are in a society. If you're living with people, you're going to realize certain components of your psychology is dependent on not only how you see the world, but how the world sees you. And that's healthy. We got to be conscious of the mustard on our face, and we got to be conscious of the unnecessary mindsets that never needed to be there, you know? So, guys, Clinical Sword is saying, tell us the story. Out of curiosity, how many people want to hear the story of the house party? Like the messed up thing that happened there, you know? If we get like 5 people, because there's 12 people listening, I'll tell the story, you know? For now, it's 1 out of 5. The unknown is honor. It's standing true in the face. Honor is standing true in the face of the unknown. That means that, you know what the biggest issue with, I think, karma is for people? They don't accept themselves. So they don't get their karma. They're getting some weird ass karma. The person hasn't accepted that it's okay for them to be. That means that's an remarkable moment in human life where you realize it is okay to exist. It's just that when you are existing in a society, you gotta experience it in unique ways, you know? Okay, how many do we have for now? We have 3 out of 5. 2 more people, and I'll share the story, you know? There is something I've called a decency resonance, the sincerity resonance. Sometimes I've called it that. And what it is, it's a level of your own acceptance that, regardless of the language that comes from outside of you, shouldn't change. What does that mean? That means, imagine you're a pilot. I know you may not be. You might be the most passive person on this planet listening to this talk, but imagine you're the only pilot on an airplane. Nobody else knows. When you're that pilot, all the passengers in that plane of existence are looking at you. In that airplane are looking at you. And if you can get comfortable with the feeling of navigating your attention, realizing just like you drive a car, the car's not going to move itself. It's your intention, your attention as a human being that moves the vehicle. And so when you take this, it's not even a responsibility you can take. It's just realizing your ability to respond is arising from how you open your eyes to the moment. Okay, guys, I'll tell you the story. I mean, it's not like, don't get too excited for this story of the house party. It was just something unique happened. It was one of the most unique conversations. Okay, long story short, I had this friend named Connor, and he was an actor, and I was studying directing at the time at Toronto Film School. And so I went to get to know the actor. That means I thought it's like someone who's a friend is a better actor for your film, you know? And actually, I became friends with him. Connor was a cool guy. And so I'm going with Connor, talking to him, asking him about his range, asking him about what kind of emotions he's going through his life, if he can even feel like he can play the character, you know, of the script I'd written, Clone Kid. And so what happens is that I go to this. I'm going with Connor. Connor invites me. I go to this house. Little do I know the house is it's not Connor's house. It's not Connor's house. But Connor was acting like it's his house, you know. But I realized it's Connor's. It's like Connor was the friend. Connor was like he was living there, you know. But and so when I realize this, I get to know the person whose house I'm in. You know, I get to know the main person, and the person says stay and all this, and so they have this house party, and it's like it was a small room, but you know, a group of people there, you know, chilling, different activities, some that should be frowned upon, some that shouldn't. And so here's the thing. This is really the point of the story I want to say. I'm sitting there, the conversation gets deep. Okay? This kid, his name was Desta. Okay? He sits there and he tells everyone, and he was really trying to act tough. He was even playing with a knife in his hand, in front of us. And he comes and says, guys, I have multiple personalities. And one of my personalities is a demon. And one of my personalities is this. Right? And so, can you imagine sitting in like a gathering and somebody coming and consciously telling you, I have multiple personalities, and one of my personalities I don't control. And I looked at this kid and I'm like, is he trying to is he trying to, act, is he trying to show that he has a loud bark, you know? And then I remember the conversation got to a certain point where I asked him a question that he couldn't. I told him, okay, man, so if you have different personalities, do these personalities, in the moment they exist, each have a soul? The person entertained that idea of the soul. Okay? And he said, yeah, they're each is a soul, His different personalities. Then I asked him, how could you know you are being all of them? Something in these lines, And for a second, I saw it that it was as if I realized he was just saying that, That means it's like some people we are performers by nature. Just survival is a performance you got to keep up with, But I'm saying we are performers by nature, and that was the thing. So it's strange. I've met 2 other people in this life who they've come to me and they've said where they felt they had multiple personalities, And really, the thing is, it's not that you have multiple personalities. Every environment you go into, your personality evokes in accordance to that circumstance. That means think of yourself having in every moment potentially a different personality, because it's a different environment, different situation. Clinical Sword is saying LMAO. You're like, what? You don't live here? No, it was messed up. I told it was a good, like, he didn't live there. He was living there. It wasn't his place. It wasn't Connor's place. But the issue was he had, here's the thing. I want you to imagine you, for example, are a millionaire. Imagine you're a billionaire, but you go and act like a beggar. Do you know? That means you accept weakness before you accept your own strength. And that was the issue with Connor. He had accepted that it was okay for him to get pushed around by those he was living in, So guys, I'm just telling you, that personality, multiple personality, was like different gears of a car. Okay? It's like personality is like the speed of your car. You think your car has one speed in an angle, it has to stop, many different things. Even in deep sleep, it's like asking, like, I should have probably asked the kid this. I should have been like, in deep sleep, how many personalities do you have? So that was the thing. It was an intense thing, but I realized something else that also was in that party, which I didn't like, guys. People were idolizing how they were diagnosed with depression. It was like, I was kind of born in 1991. It's like, for me, it's like there was a point I didn't even know what depression was. I didn't even know the word for it, the concept for it. I thought it was just life with different states of mind that we live in. I didn't know there was something as a depression, Like, how is it even possible to be depressed in the same way all the time? It's impossible. Unless you're in an environment that's not changing. So this is one thing I don't like, you know? But maybe it could have a positive effect. You know, the thing is, how seriously are you taking what you're looking at? That means if you look in the mirror, who do you see? Do you see a pilot? Do you see someone who can navigate your attention while you're in this plane of existence? Or do you see someone who is waiting for someone to pilot them? I'm telling you guys, there is no point in being weak. I glorified weakness as a justification to not see what my own effort was in my youth. It was a flaw. It's a flawed system, you know? That means, honestly, if I had a time machine, I would just go back in time and look at my younger version of myself, and I'd be like, who are you being shy for? You know, don't you realize you exist too? That's the thing. I didn't feel I exist, so I didn't feel I can move my life. And that's the thing, because we're conditioned to see outside is more real than the inside. But we don't realize what's within us is what's moving us. For where do you think these ideas I'm saying are coming from? So guys, that was the story. It was intense, you know. And I thought, let me tell you what it is. So many people on this planet, there is nothing wrong with them. There is no schizophrenia, no psychology issue. It's just an inability to discriminate what is a visualization and what is the real. That is the only thing. It's just a discrimination point. That means I'm telling you, we are not designed to be the same person every day. If you're being the same person every day, write a book, it'll be a bestseller, because it's impossible. Both the world is changing and so is your eyes in accordance to every experience you attain. That means the fact that we think everything has to be good in just one image on a wall, it's like, give me a break. You know, human beings are incredibly, I think aliens, if aliens are seeing humans, the human species, they're just laughing. They're just on the clouds, just dying with laughter. You know? It's like, how did human beings, you know, destroy the aliens? They made them laugh so hard they died. Let me tell you, that's why there's no aliens in the universe. They all died of laughter upon looking at the species, human species. Let me tell you why. Because we are still in a fragmented position of psychology. It's very hard to be an individual. Go read the biography of any person on this planet, and you'll see that they have been multiple people in their lives. Because the environment is different. The Japanese understand this well. This is why Western psychology should really look at how Japanese psychologists are looking at things. Do you know? Because they say the man is the room he enters. If you are in a room with a bunch of criminals, you can feel like a criminal in that moment. You know? You feel criminal. If you're in a moment in a room with a bunch of saints, you feel saintly. Do you know? So the man is the room he is in. When you understand this, you become an advanced communicator, because you realize attention is moving, is the prime mover, and what is in attention is not the attention. This is why you can pay attention to many things. This is why life isn't just you're looking at one thing and that's it. It's multiple views, you know? No, this is the thing. Carl Jung spoke about it. You know, that means if they teach Jungian psychology, if they had taught Jungian psychology in high school, do you know, all these kids who got depression would have a framework of analysis upon it. Do you know, the issue is the educational system doesn't want to educate. It doesn't really care for knowledge. And this is a bold claim. University professors might be like, what the hell is this guy saying? I'm telling you that we have forgotten. The educational system has been possessed by the economical sector, by the financial sector. Why? Because people actually, you can't do anything with knowledge. Do you know you can't make money with just knowing something? Do you know? And because money is a component for survival, the person cares for knowledge as much as it can make them something. Do you know? But they don't care about knowledge like the scholars back in the day did. They don't care about the ideas that much. Because if they did, they would realize the value of ideology is not that endless children are being born and they're all indoctrinated in the same idea. It's that every mind is an explorer. The educational system should be creating able explorers, but it is creating incapable explorers who can just go do a robotic task and yay, you get a high five check. Let me tell you, it's duality that can't be discriminated from the singular. That means if you can't see yourself as an individual, somebody could come and tell you you're Superman, and you're gonna be like, I'm Superman. Literally, their language can replace your code. If you understand, if you comprehend who you are, And here's the thing: this is very huge. Whoever you are in life, hearing this, that you gotta win small battles. You gotta win micro battles before you can appreciate the macro victories. What does that mean? That means your character is based on how your attention moves. And if you honor your attention, you won't let it be clothed with narrative. Because if you think you're an idea, do you know how easy it is for someone to come and manipulate you if you think you're an idea? The issue with thinking that you're a tree is that other people might cut you down, I feel every human being requires to study the unknown as much as the known, and the known is just a tool to study the unknown. That means the educational system doesn't know it, but the point of knowledge is the unknown where we extract it from. When you understand this, the unknown dimensions of your life will fascinate you. You'll be like, why is the world unknown in this way to me? Guys, this Jungian psychology, if you want to, Carl Jung fragmented the psyche in so many ways, but we don't call Carl Jung a schizophrenic. We call him someone who was a psychologist, And because there's a huge thing, because right now, if somebody tells you, remember yourself from yesterday, can we say you're schizophrenic? This person is thinking they're who they are now and who they're thinking they are yesterday. So if we identify with memory, that is the same as two simultaneity of selves in the awareness. Do you know? So the concept is wrong. I'm telling you, psychology, I honor. You don't know. I'll tell you something many people don't know, guys. When I was 11, I had this email called Kill You Beast. I don't know why. At yahoo.com. Now I have no idea what's happened to that email, but and I remember I went, and at the time my parents were having a bit of a conflict that was getting close to the idea of divorce, and it was my first time I was viewing this, and I was seeing their psychologies, and then I felt I could see the problem, what the issue was, do you know? And I remember just for myself, imagine 11-year-old me, I sent an email to the University of Philadelphia from Iran, So I don't know from Iran or where, but I sent I sent an email and I'm like, I'm 11 and I think I have a PhD in psychology. It's just this thing I remember. That means you don't know the concept of psychology. I would hear my one side of my family speak about the soul and Erfan, as it's known in Farsi, and one part of my family speak about religion, and all my uncles being Marxist, atheist, scientist types, you know? And so it was like I saw all these different angles, but I can tell you art is where divinity lingers, the new. The new is the most valuable thing. Because how can we picture an endlessly advancing civilization? This is why I was in my idea of civilization 2.0 and sky cities emerging and us moving into a position where nations have become sub-nations, and they have become sub-nations of the ultimate nation. I don't know, let's call it uh, Ultra Nation Prime, you know? An endlessly advancing civilization. People are like, what are you working for so hard? You know, why are you working so hard? Towards what aim? And you're like, to the endless aim of the civilization. Because there is no end, guys. That's the thing. Even though we're temporary, human psychology is endless. That means, what's the point of survival? Endless continuity. What's the point of spirituality? Endless afterlife continuity. You know? So, anyways, guys, I hope you liked that story. Honestly, it was a really strange night. You know, when I was coming back on the subway, I was like, "Wow, I know nothing about the world." There's so many kinds of people. It's fascinating, and I feel every human being should write a book, an honest book about their inner realms, and contribute their findings and what they have hunted for and gathered in their inner realms and share. That's it. We're a tribe at the end of the day. And a tribe means that an integration of technology and efficiency is really better for everyone. You'll see the person who has comfort with the unknown, they are the most content in the room. And usually it's older people who've experienced life and they've realized the unknown. They've realized that after some point you can't have too much of an ego on this life because the body gets older. That's it. You know, it's like we're not designed to carry our egos, you know? It's like I remember I saw it in Joe Rogan. There was this old gentleman, elderly gentleman who was incredibly wealthy, and this elderly gentleman had started lifting weights. You know, he had the ego where in his mind he was younger than actually he had noticed his body, so there was a strain on his body and he had some injuries, you know? So this is the thing. There's going to come a time where, just like we have retirement, you have to retire that ego. That's that sword and the warrior who's in the battlefield. You're not designed to be in an immortal and endless war. It's like the point of the weapon is that you use it. After you're done, you let go. Nobody wants to hold a weapon. You know, it's much better to hold a paintbrush as a weapon. You know. Violence, you're gonna see any act of violence, it devolves you. It devolves you. You regret your own inefficiency if you had a chance to be efficient. That's the nature of the mind. That means I was thinking that something that is here now plus the unknown equals my future. Then I realized, no, it's something now plus how it will happen plus the future where it equals the unknown. So this is why I say I walk in the halls of a school of thought where the soul doesn't have a personality. Like, I have no idea how the Buddha understood the soul, then felt it could reincarnate. Like, that's adorable, you know. Because it doesn't seem to be embodied. It seems to be the attention within the body or as the body. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, my eyes are perceiving like trees and the sky and the landscape in front of me. But if I was to close my eyes, I could see that that landscape is like a mesh. Like, I don't know how to say it. It's like if you look at something and close your eyes, it's like with every breath, like ocean waves, it wipes what was written in the sand. There is a nature to that. That means if you're not comfortable with duality, you're not comfortable with your body even. This is why I'm saying the pilot requires these 4 dimensions to confront 0, 1, to infinity. You got to realize there's space. You got to realize that there's singular phenomena in this space. Every person has an individual dimension to them, which you must honor, because you don't see their eyes at first. You see, I chose this wallpaper, guys. Let me take your attention here. This kid is taking a picture of the city outside of the city. And he's going to post it on social media. This kid in the wallpaper. Probably. You know? And what does that mean? That means we noticed something from outside of where we were. We came back to where we were. We shared it with where we were. And from the inside, we updated. That means you should have intentions for your inner life and your outer life. You should have motives for your inner life and your outer life. But the motive for the inner life should not be a motive of a body, so at best it becomes abidance by the witness. Little did the human being know, it is the greatest watcher of its mind. That means you're not just viewing my video right now, you're viewing yourself viewing my video. And that viewer, as the Upanishads say, the seer of the seen is unseen. This is a good question to ask the man in the mirror. Who are you living for? Is it a who? Are you a who? Like Doctor Who? You see, there was something I really liked about the Avengers movie. It was Iron Man's, like, Iron Man's suit that had become so advanced by the end of the last movie where it was like nano liquid technology. So imagine, like, you buy this container of liquid in the future, you pour that liquid on the ground and it becomes like a barbecue. You know? A sort of nano level of handling the technology. So nanotechnology is going to be one of the coolest technologies, especially for design. It's going to make us feel we can make anything into liquid at any time. Like, there's this idea of nanotechnology food printers, you know? What does that mean? That means in the future you want like filet mignon, you know? You type that into the machine and you get a filet mignon, you know? It's the machine just on an atomic level creates the cells. That means if you made a fresh steak, you know, a fresh, like you got Chef Ramsay to make like a good dish, and you atomically could replicate everything about that dish. That means you could even 3D print the plate for the food. Everything. So we could even 3D print our memories in the future. Can you imagine? I mean, it's a very good time to be alive because nature holds the higher ground. But in the future, when technology holds the higher ground, it's going to get a bit weird. It's going to get really weird when cloning technology eventually is acted upon humans. Chat section suddenly went quiet, you know? That means it was deep. Yeah. The unknown is a pillar of civilization. The unknown will be your teacher after you have knowledge has been your teacher. That means we can create this playful. Guys, let me get paper. I can explain these much easier. Just hang on. Quick break, everybody. 2 minute break. Be right back. Okay, so I'm back, guys. This was the idea, pretty much, I wanted to explain. Um, Let us say there are two dimensions to life, as I've explained so far, the known and the unknown. Now, let us say that we are in a known world, so there is a student. Let me say it like this. First, the student doesn't know, the teacher knows. Then, the student knows, like the teacher. Then you can say, okay, oh God, this becomes complex. Okay, student has no clue. Let's say student is unknown. The student sees a teacher that is known. So the student first learns from a teacher. First you're a student of knowledge, and you notice the teacher of knowledge. But the teacher of knowledge is the student of the unknown. And the student of the unknown, yeah, the teacher of knowledge is the student of the unknown. And the student of the unknown is learning from the unknown teacher. So first you are a student and you got to learn from the known reality. Okay? Then you you learn from a known teacher. Okay? Then the known teacher is a student of the unknown. Is a student of the unknown. Yeah. Now the student of the unknown has the student of the unknown. Sorry guys, I'm just writing this. The student of the unknown has unknown teacher. And when you become the unknown teacher, then you are the student of another dimension's known knowledge. There we go. I think I got it right. I think this model is going to hold through. Guys, this is it. This is exactly the progression, at least I, in some way, archetypally experienced. So it's a return. It's a return to the unknown student. That means the unknown student is the student of the unknown, is the peak of knowledge, the peak of learning. And the unknown, I'm saying it in these talks, it's within. Because isn't it fascinating how this light enters your eyes and then an event takes place where reality is here, you know? So anyways, guys, I'm gonna end the talk here, and Q&A is gonna be in the Discord. If anybody asks questions, I'll be in the Discord. So thanks for listening. Just one thing about the title, The Restoration of the Universal Unknown. That means care for the unknown value of moments as well. Try to notice those too. That means if you see something and you know something about, let's say you're talking to someone and you get an impression, that's the known value. Now you got to also consider there's an unknown value, that the mind is complex. And when we consider every person has an unknown value, unknown potential behind their eyes, then you start actually taking care of your species, or wanting to, a little bit. You know, because you realize everybody is fighting a battle of their own, how their inner realms are interpreting reality. You know, it's like that saying, everybody's fighting a battle you can't see. When you notice this, you then honor everybody as a comrade on the same battlefield, pretty much. You know, same existential battlefield. You know. So, yeah, guys, if there's any questions, serious questions, I'll be in the Discord. you can find me in that on that branch. And guys, the value of knowledge is really how far we can explore the unknown. So thanks for listening. Blessings.